Welcome to the 1975 Formula One season on Motors TV. It all started up in Argentina with Patrick Depailler in the Tyrrell, Carlos Reutemann in the Brabham, and Jean-Pierre Jarier in the Shadow. On the French side, one can notice Jacques Lafitte in the Williams, a team that now builds its own cars. Emerson Fittipaldi in the McLaren is last year's world champion and will keep a close watch to James Hunt in the Heskin. Here we are on the 12th of January, and it's just a few moments before the 26th season in the history of Formula One will start on the Buenos Aires circuit. Alongside Patrick Depailler, we see an exuberant Ken Tyrrell. We find Jody Scheckter. The South African and the Frenchman seem to work well together. Three drivers for this first Grand Prix of the season, and two new teams in the paddock, Williams and Copersucar. The latter is a Brazilian team managed by the Fittipaldi brothers, with Wilson Fittipaldi as its driver. The Ferrari team, with its duo Lauda-Regazzoni, is part of the great show we're waiting this season. The Swiss driver missed the title by an inch in 1974, and he could be the man of the Scuderia this year. Jean-Pierre Jarier is first on the grid in front of all the aces. Unfortunately for the French, he's out in the formation lap. He suffers a mechanical breakdown. Reutemann takes the lead ahead of Carlos Pace and Niki Lauda. Fittipaldi and Ronnie Peterson on Lotus are not far behind. On the 15th lap of the 53-lap race, Wilson Fittipaldi clouts a barrier. His Copersucar is on fire. No luck for Pace as well, who spins on the dust covering the track in this part. The race then gets harder for everyone, in particular for Reutemann, who has understeer problems with his Brabham. The Argentinian driver is at home and has to contain the threatening James Hunt. Hunt is the leader in front of Fittipaldi and Reutemann, followed closely by Lauda and Regazzoni. Tyrrell's driver Depailler is close to the points, while Scheckter is one lap behind after he made contact with Moss. There's smoke coming out of the Ferrari, but the engine seems okay. Depailler is now fifth. At the front, there's a struggle going on between Hunt and Fittipaldi. Carlos Pace retires after his engine breaks down. Emerson Fittipaldi finally overtakes Hunt. The Brazilian driver starts his season like he ended the last one, victoriously. Hunt, Reutemann, Regazzoni, Depailler, and Lauda are all in the points in this first Grand Prix of the season. The atmosphere is tense in Brazil 2 weeks later. All the best drivers are still there, including Graham Hill, 17 years after his first Grand Prix. He's driving a Lola for the embassy team. Once again, it's Jean-Pierre Jarier on pole, 1 second quicker than his Brazilian follower, Emerson Fittipaldi. It is certainly a large feat for the Frenchman. Carlos Pace, the other Brazilian driver, is sixth. Carlos Reutemann third, while Depailler is only ninth on the grid. Jarier is the top Frenchman of this early part of the season. In the Ferrari team, Mauro Forgi and Niki Lauda are in great discussion. Their two drivers claim fourth and fifth in qualifying, only 1/10 from each other. Mario Andretti drives a Parnelli, and Reutemann seems happy with the heat of the Brazilian weekend. And at last, Wilson Fittipaldi is at home with his Copersucar. Reutemann gets an anticipated start and takes the lead in front of Jarier, Pache, Ragazzoni, Lauda, Scheckter, Fittipaldi, Depailler, Ickx, Watson, Merzario, Mas, Price, followed by Donahue, Andretti, Hunt, Brambilla, Lafitte, Wilds, Hill, Stomlin, Wilson Fittipaldi, and Peterson, who gets in the pits for a carburation problem. Would retire with an engine problem with his March. On lap 5, Jarier finally gets past, he overtakes Reutemann and slowly breaks away. It could be Jean-Pierre Jarier's day. His Shadow Ford Cosworth leads by 23 seconds at mid-race. Pache is second, Reutemann, Ragazzoni, Lauda, Scheckter, Fittipaldi, and Depailler bring up the pack. It would be bad luck for Jarier. On lap 33, his car breaks down on the circuit. A petrol problem, and he's out of the race. He had to retire. Another poor performance for the Frenchman. Pache then takes the lead and makes it to the checkered flag. It's a real celebration as he crossed the line at Interlagos in front of his home audience for their first win in a Grand Prix car. Fittipaldi, Mas, Ragazzoni, Lauda, and Hunt are all in the points. On the 1st of March, the third round of the season takes place in Kyalami, South Africa. Emerson Fittipaldi, leader of the World Championship with 15 points. No more than 26 drivers will make the race. That means neither Graham Hill nor Wilson Fittipaldi managed to qualify. Leila Lombardi did as well, and will be the first woman to drive in a Formula One Grand Prix. She's last on the grid. The two Carlos are in front. Pache and Reutemann were the fastest men in the qualifying, only 7/100ths from one another. Scheckter and Lauda are on the second row, Depailler and Andretti on the third. Pache takes the lead after the first corner, but he is soon overtaken by a flying Jody Scheckter at his home circuit on lap 3. Jean-Pierre Jarier only qualified 13th for this Grand Prix, and he's now midfield around 10th place. James Hunt is 2 laps behind, and Leila Lombardi retires due to petrol pressure problems with her car. Between Scheckter, Pache, Reutemann, Depailler, Regazzoni, Fittipaldi, Peterson, and Lauda, everything is still possible in this race. Depailler catches up to third place, and the leaders Scheckter and Reutemann are now engaged in a splendid struggle for the lead. Jarier would go on to retire on lap 37 of the 78-lap race. The issue seems dubious in the South African Grand Prix between Scheckter, Reutemann, and Depailler. Scheckter finally maintains his lead over the Argentinian by 4 seconds. Depailler will keep his third place at the line just in front of a threatening Pache. Fittipaldi suffered mechanical problems all through the day and doesn't score any points in this Grand Prix. Jackie Stewart seems quite satisfied with the two Tyrrells on the podium and the Scheckter's triumph at home. The next Grand Prix is the most chaotic in the season, maybe in history. The track is Montuïx in Barcelona, Spain, and considered dangerous by everyone.
We've just had a meeting with the organisers, and they've agreed that they're going to be working all night. They've got all the necessary equipment, and they're going to be trying to do what they can to put the circuit in the state that is required by the...
Graham Hill met with the organisers early this morning on behalf of the drivers. They promised safety improvements on the layout before the race. Everyone's still busy in the paddock, still nervous thinking about the poor state of the guardrails on the track, as Patrick Depailler explains to French TV.
Les rails de sécurité ont été mal démontés certainement de l'année dernière, et très mal remontés, il manquait les boulons, enfin, on pouvait les démonter à la main sans outils.
The drivers decide to slow down during qualifying while the circuit staff tries to improve safety fittings at the last minute. The drivers can't help it and finally accelerate. The two Ferraris monopolize the front row with times of 1:23.4 and 1:23.5. The double world champion and current leader of the championship, Fittipaldi, is far away with 2 minutes 10. He's not qualified and doesn't seem to bother him not to run a race that doesn't look good, according to him. His predictions were confirmed in the first corner with a small pileup involving Lauda, Regazzoni, and Depailler, who are out of the race. Hunt seizes the opportunity to take the lead, followed by Andretti, Watson, Stommelen, Brambilla, Pache, and Peterson. Lap 14 of 75, Andretti slows down as Parnelli. He retires after a suspension failure, a bad day for the American who had just taken the lead. Rolf Stommelen then goes on to the front with Pache, Maas, Peterson, Ickx, Bryce, and Price behind. On the beginning of lap 26, everything goes terribly wrong. Stommelen suddenly loses the wing of his Lola, the German flies away and crashes into the grille. The driver is seriously injured, 5 people are dead and 10 injured. The race is stopped. The first 6 drivers will score half points, and Leila Lombardi makes history for scoring a half a point in the World Championship. Everyone is still shocked 2 weeks later when comes the 5th round of the season at Monaco. The grid is limited to 18 pilots. Graham Hill, 5-time winner of the race, Leila Lombardi, Wilson Fittipaldi, Arturo Merzario, and Jacques Laffite are among the many who don't qualify. Niki Lauda is on pole, his first of the season and surely not the last. He's side by side with Tom Price in his shadow on the grid. The track is wet and everyone opted for rain tires. Lauda, Peterson, and Price break away, followed by Scheckter and Fittipaldi. The track is beginning to dry and the rain tires are beginning to lose their grip. Lauda is still slightly ahead. Peterson and Price, who have problems with one of its wings, are not far behind. Depailler is struggling against Hunt, then Pache. Pit stop for all the drivers to change tires. Peterson missed his and was left behind. Lauda seems to control the situation. The Austrian driver wins the race, followed by Fittipaldi and Pache. The race has been stopped at lap 75, not to exceed the 2-hour limit. It's the rule. Fittipaldi keeps the lead on the World Championship with 21 points. Pache is second on 16. Lauda third with 14, followed by Reutemann in fourth with 12 points. We now move on to Zolder for the Belgian Grand Prix. Here we can have a glimpse of the layout of the wet track with an onboard camera. Jackie Ickx is there, of course, teammate of Ronnie Peterson at Lotus. Patrick Depailler has his own way of concentrating. James Hunt and Lord Hesketh seem in a good mood. He's the boss, and he certainly knows it.
Charles now moving up onto the final grid. The last three score this time the track leader. On the left by points of Nicky Lauda, the pro
The qualifying session is dominated by Lauda's Ferrari, who is on pole, only 400ths ahead of Carlos Pace. Brambilla and Regazzoni are on the second row. Pace made the best start, but Lauda won't let him break away. He wants to recover what he considers his, of course, his first place. He's close behind the Brazilian, as Brambilla follows behind. On lap 4, Brambilla takes the lead, but suffers problems with his brakes. On lap 6, Nicky Lauda finally takes the lead. Behind the Austrian, Scheckter and Brambilla tried to resist. By the end of the race, the Ferrari team seemed concerned. Strange noises are coming from Lauda's engine. The Tyrrell team thinks it's time to speed up the pace, and Uncle Ken personally pushes Jody Scheckter, second to claim first place. On the other hand, it's been a disastrous race for Lotus. Peterson misses the chicane and retires on lap 37. Jackie Ickx retires too on lap 52 after brake problems. Fittipaldi is struggling with Depailler for fourth place. By the end of the race, positions don't change a lot. Lauda's engine finally makes it to the line, and the Tyrrell team are happy with Scheckter in second place. Reutemann is third, Depailler fourth, Regazzoni fifth, Price sixth, Fittipaldi seventh. It's not in the points, and Lauda takes the lead in the World Championship after his second victory in the season. He will pad this lead 2 weeks later in Sweden with another victory in front of Reutemann and Regazzoni. At half-season, the Austrian driver is first with 32 points, 10 more than Reutemann, second, and 11 ahead of Fittipaldi. The second half of the season starts in Zandvoort, Netherlands, on the 22nd of June. The team to beat is Ferrari, now with 3 victories in a row. The best man on the track in 1975 is Nicky Lauda, who scored 10 points more than his teammate Clay Regazzoni. In this Grand Prix, they're both on the front row, with Lauda on pole. Hunter and Scheckter share second row, ahead of Reutemann and Fittipaldi on the third. Leila Lombardi, the female driver, will run the race. She'll start at the back of the grid. Luca Di Montezemelo is here talking with Niki Lauda. The Italian man is Ferrari's boss. He made Lauda join his team 2 years ago. The Commendatore agreed at the time. Could Di Montezemelo ever guess he would rejoin Ferrari 17 years later and introduce Jean Todt into the Scuderia and a certain Michael Schumacher? In the Tyrrell camp, things are not going too well. They're still trying to stick to their glorious past, but times are getting hard. 1975 Formula One season on Motors TV. The two Ferraris are on the front row with Lauda on pole once again. On the second row, we have James Hunt and Jody Scheckter. The weather's wet and the drivers start the race on rain tires. By the end of lap 1, Lauda leads from Scheckter while Regazzoni contains the threatening James Hunt. The conditions are harsh, resulting in many spins. Nevertheless, the track is drying and everybody is thinking about when to make the pit stop to change tires. Depailler stopped to check his suspension and went out of the pits just in front of the leader. On lap 8, Hunt is the first one to put on the slicks. Scheckter will follow on lap 12, Lauda on lap 13, Regazzoni on lap 14, and on lap 15, Hunt, logically, is the leader. Note that the great Jean-Pierre Jarier, second at this point between Hunt and Lauda, will once again be unlucky when his left rear tire blows. He will end his day against the guardrail. In the meantime, Lauda hunts down James Hunt. The struggle for the lead can start once again. It will result in a splendid duel until the checkered flag. Hunt finally wins in front of the Austrian driver by a little more than a second. It's his first victory in a Grand Prix, and the first one for the team Hesketh as well. This is a glorious day for the Englishman, an efficient and sympathetic driver with an eccentric and nonchalant personality. Lauda does well to finish second. Now he's 13 points ahead of Reutemann at the World Championship, who finished fourth in the Netherlands. The next race is held in France. The race should have been run at Charade, but the security improvements weren't good enough on the track, so it's been moved to Paul Ricard. Jean-Pierre Jabouille is on the run, driving a third Tyrrell. Niki Lauda claimed his fifth pole position of the year in 9 starts. He's side by side with Jody Scheckter on the grid, who set an impressive time in second place. Depailler is 13th, Jabouille 21st. Still on the French side, Jarier is 4th, followed by Lafitte in 16th. François Migaud, 26th in qualifying and last on the grid, won't win the race. His engine broke down during the warm-up. Lauda gets a good start and keeps the race under control. Scheckter is second, ahead of Hunt, Maas, Regazzoni, and Pace. Regazzoni takes fourth place while Lauda breaks away, this time ahead of Hunt, who overtook Scheckter for second. Meanwhile, Depailler is off to a flying start, overtaking Ickx, Watson, and Donohue in that order. Next up will be Peterson, followed by Reutemann. At mid-race, the positions are as follows: Lauda, Hunt, Moss, Fittipaldi, Jarier, Scheckter, Bryce, Andretti, Depailler, Reutemann, Peterson, Jones, Lafitte, Pache, Jabouille, Watson, Van Lennep, Evans, and Lombardi. They're still all in the race. In the end, it's Lauda who wins the fourth Grand Prix of the season. The drivers are welcomed by a royal visitor in Silverstone. Prince Philip, the Queen's husband, is in the paddock. The Japanese driver, Fushida, wasn't so successful and couldn't qualify the Mackie Ford.
21st, 23 to Chaseris, 37.
In the Lotus camp, Ickx is no longer there. The teammates to Peterson are now Crawford and Henton. The Silverstone layout has been slightly modified with the new chicane at Woodcote. The total length of the track is now 4 kilometers, 700 meters. The day before qualifying, Graham Hill announced he would retire from competition. And we all know about his tragic fate when he dies in a plane crash at the end of the year. The day before the race, the competition is held in the pits for the quickest change of tires. And on this day, Tyrrell will take the honors from McLaren. Ken Tyrrell is over the moon with his team's victory. He never seemed as happy, even when he won his world titles. Tom Price is on pole. He's side by side with Pache and followed by the two Ferraris. Pache made the best start. Price is second in front of Regazzoni and Lauda. Quickly, many drivers would retire. Lafitte in the Williams, Reutemann and Peterson, and eventually Regazzoni would spin on lap 19 as the rain began to fall. drivers will have to change tires. It all starts with Scheckter on lap 20. He soon overtakes everyone, but unfortunately the rain stops and the track begins to dry. The South African driver will once again have to enter the pits for slicks on lap 32. At this point, Jarier is the leader, but once again, the French driver is unlucky. As the rain starts to fall, once again, he goes off the circuit on lap 56 of 67. The red flag is out. Fittipaldi wins the race in front of Pache and Scheckter. Lauda is only 8th place. One of the most prestigious meetings of the year is undoubtedly the German Grand Prix at the Nürburgring. Ralf Stommelen makes his comeback for this occasion after his crash at Barcelona. He's received well by everyone in the paddock. Niki Lauda, not far from his home country, sets the pole. He's the only man under 7 minutes, with a time of 6 minutes 58, exactly 38 seconds ahead of last place qualifier, Leila Lombardi. Jacques Laffite is 15th on the grid in the Williams. Emerson Fittipaldi already knows his chance for the crown is over. He's now running for the second place in the World Championship. But all eyes are turned toward Niki Lauda in his gorgeous Ferrari 312T. Two local drivers are on hand, with Hans-Joachim Stuck in a March and Harald Ertel, who runs his first Grand Prix for the Hesketh team. And they're off for 14 laps around the 22-kilometer Nürburgring circuit. Scheckter misses his start from the second row. By the end of the first lap, Lauda is the undisputed leader ahead of Depailler and Pache. Scheckter drives hard to catch up and is now 14th. At mid-race, Lauda is still the leader. Depailler is just behind, with Pache short on his heels, ready to take advantage of any situation. Scheckter finally retires, and in the meantime, Depailler faces a problem with his suspension. He was threatening to Lauda, but now it's over for him. A pity for the Tyrrell team, who could have made it much better. Regazzoni is now second. The two Ferraris are ahead. But on lap 10 comes a big surprise. Regazzoni retires after an oil pressure problem, and Lauda goes into the pits with a left front puncture. The Ferrari dream of a 1-2 crumbles. Carlos Reutemann takes the lead ahead of Jacques Laffite for an excellent second-place finish. Lauda gets the precious points of third place and is on the podium. His dream of a world title is not too far off. The Italian driver Brambilla would go on to win the Austrian Grand Prix 2 weeks later. After 29 laps of a confusing race under a stormy weather condition. A victory remembered by everyone for Brambilla losing control of his march just after the finish line. The Italian Grand Prix at Monza on the 7th of September will surely be decisive for the World Championship title of 1975. But it all begins with a bad surprise. Italy has been struck by storms and the paddock is flooded. Qualifying would have to be run under the rain. The Shadow is now equipped with Matra power. It's the only car, besides Ferrari, not having the Ford Cosworth power plant at the rear. Leila Lombardi is pleased to run her National Grand Prix. While Lauda once again is on pole, there is a buzz in the air, in the stands, and in the pits. Happily, the skies have cleared for a race that will be fought over a distance of 300 kilometers only. As usual, the Ferraris are on the front row, followed by Fittipaldi and Scheckter on row number 2, Mast and Bryce on the third. Regazzoni got the best start and led by the end of lap 1. Scheckter misses the chicane. The South African driver has brake problems. He goes into reverse and gets it back on the track, where the race is quite confusing. At the front, it's all Ferrari. Reutemann and Fittipaldi are struggling for third place. Depailler is fifth. On lap 42, Fittipaldi starts threatening Lauda. On the next lap, the Brazilian driver overtakes the Austrian, who is suffering from oversteering. Regazzoni finally wins his first race of the season. Fittipaldi is second, Lauda is third. He made the break in the World Championship and is now the official 1975 champion, to the great pleasure of the Tifosi. The last Grand Prix of the season is held at Watkins Glen in the USA. The layout has been modified with a new chicane added just where Francois Sever crashed and died 2 years ago. There's a brand new third driver in the Tyrrell team, Michel Leclerc, debuting in Formula One. The Frenchman is running the European F2 Championship this year as well, overshadowed by Jacques Laffite, who qualified on the 11th row this weekend, but is forced to retire because of a problem with one of his eyes. Silly Jacques confused anti-steam with eye drops. Once again, it's Lauda on pole, side by side with Fittipaldi, who is now sure to finish this season with the vice championship title. Reutemann and Jarier are on the second row, Andretti and Brambilla on the third. Positions remain at the start. It's Lauda ahead of Fittipaldi, Jarier, Brambilla, and Reutemann. Behind them, Pachi and Depailler unfortunately make contact. The Brazilian driver got 2 broken fingers in the crash. Michel Leclerc retired on lap 5, victim of an engine failure. Lauda keeps the lead, but doesn't break away from Fittipaldi. Regazzoni, who came into contact with Mass at the beginning, is now 1 lap behind the leaders. The Swiss driver moves out of teammate Lauda's way and then blocks the road for Fittipaldi. Team races or orders seem to always have existed for Ferrari. Once he overtook Regazzoni, Fittipaldi gets the second place of the last Grand Prix of the season, while Jochen Mass makes it to the podium. Hunt, Peterson, and Scheckter are all in the points. Lauda finally wins the world title in 1975 with 64.5 points, ahead of Fittipaldi with 45 and Reutemann on 37. James Hunt finishes 4th and is ready for the next year. Ferrari also took the Constructors' title from Brabham and McLaren. The Lauda-Ferrari combination seems a great success, ready to dominate F1 for a long time, unless something bad happens.